Welcome to another chapter of The Smiling Ghost. Today I'm going to narrate chapters 21 and 22. I hope you enjoy it. Chapter The Decision. The tide was beginning to rise, the waves lapping at the sand where Tomas and Andreas stood hand in hand. The wind carried with it the scent of salt and freedom, as if nature were encouraging them to choose what they truly wanted. Andreas took a deep breath, staring out at the sea. His expression was grave but serene. "Tomas," he began, his voice low, hoarse with the weight of what he was about to say. "I can't live between two worlds anymore." Tomas looked at him, his heart racing as if dreading his next words. Andreas continued. "I accepted this engagement because I thought it was right, but it was never fair. Not to me, not to Olivia." He closed his eyes for a moment, remembering his fiancée, her face, how much she trusted him. "I'm going to break it off." Tomas's eyes widened, almost in disbelief. You're really going to do this?" "Yes." Andreas nodded firmly. "I don't know how my family will react or what will happen next, but I know what I feel. I don't want to live in hiding anymore." Tomas felt tears well up, but this time they were tears of relief. He held his hands tightly. "Andreas, are you sure?" Professor smiled slightly, his eyes shining with new courage. "I've never been so sure in my life." They hugged tightly, and in that moment Tomas felt that perhaps for the first time the world was on their side. Trip ended with shy laughter, whispered promises, and the comfortable silence of two men who finally allowed themselves to be. But upon returning to London, reality set in again. The school, the classmates, the curious glances, and without them realizing it, the shadows also returned with them. Ludmila, the 7th grader, hadn't forgotten what she'd seen. The scene of Andreas and Tomas kissing had been etched in her mind like an open wound. From that day on, the enchantment she felt for Professor Andreas turned into something darker, an obsession. She didn't tell anyone right away. She guarded the secret like a weapon, waiting for the right moment to use it. But the desire to speak grew, burning inside. Until one afternoon she sought out her best friend, Dennis. Dennis was different from her, a quiet, intelligent, but overly curious boy. When Ludmila pulled him to the corner of the playground, he knew something serious was coming. "You won't believe what I found out," she said, her eyes sparkling with excitement and venom. Dennis raised his eyebrows. "You have that heavy gossip look on your face. What is it?" Ludmila looked around, making sure no one was listening, and then whispered. "Professor Andreas, he's with his assistant Tomas." Dennis's eyes widened in surprise. "What?" "You're kidding." "I saw it with those eyes." She crossed her arms defiantly. They were kissing. Right near the school. Like they were dating. Dennis remained silent, digesting the information. "If this is true, it's serious." Ludmila smirked, a cruel glint in her eyes. "And that's where it gets interesting. If I tell Olivia, his fiancée, imagine the scandal." Dennis stared at her hesitantly. "But why? You like the professor, don't you?" "Exactly." Her voice was sharp. "He's mine. Not that random Tomas who just showed up." Dennis sighed, worried. "Ludmila, be careful. This could go very wrong." She just smiled. "Or it could give me exactly what I want." And in that moment, Dennis realized that Ludmila would stop at nothing to destroy what was between Andreas and Tomas. Chapter The Perfect Bride. The law firm where Olivia worked was one of the most prestigious in London. The daughter of a renowned lawyer and the firm's youngest partner, she lived a life of deadlines, meetings, and travel. She was the kind of woman who never let anything slip through her fingers, organized, elegant, determined. But in recent days, something had been bothering her. As she leafed through a file on her desk, Olivia's gaze drifted. The engagement ring glinted on her finger, reminding her of the man who, for months, had seemed distant. Andreas had always been reserved, but there was a sweetness about him that made her feel safe. Lately, however, his messages were short, his calls rare. She tried to convince herself it was just the stress of work, the weight of classes, but a hunch kept whispering otherwise. That Friday, as she left the office early, she made a decision. She would surprise him. She would return to Andreas's house on the weekend, unannounced. She caught the train late in the afternoon, the gray sky opening in orange hues over the London buildings. On the way, she checked her phone screen. No new messages. No, "How was your day, love?" No longing. She sighed and put the phone away. Maybe he's tired, she murmured to herself. Maybe it's all in my head. But deep down, she didn't believe that. Meanwhile, Andreas and Tomas were still in the light phase of their love affair. Classes had returned to their routine, and they saw each other whenever they could, exchanged glances in the hallways, quick conversations in the staff room, hidden laughter. There was a new glow in Andreas. He felt alive. But behind this happiness was a constant shadow, guilt. During one of the classes, while Tomas was grading notebooks and the students were reading together, Andreas found himself staring at the ring he still wore. The symbol of the commitment he hadn't yet had the courage to break. That night, when he got home, he sat on the couch and fell silent. The house felt different since Tomas, warmer, more colorful. But the ring on his finger was a constant reminder of a lie. He picked up his phone and opened the conversation with Olivia. The last messages were from her, short, affectionate, full of longing. His were polite, cold. He typed, deleted, and then wrote again. "We need to talk. When you get back, I want to see you. It's important." He sent it, and stared at the screen until sleep came. The next morning, Olivia arrived unexpectedly. Andreas was in the kitchen, making coffee, still in his t-shirt and sweatpants when he heard the doorbell. He walked to the door distractedly and froze as he opened it. "Olivia?" She smiled, trying to hide the discomfort she felt at his surprise. "Surprise," she said, lifting a bag with fresh bread and flowers. "I thought we could spend the weekend together." For a second, Andreas forgot to breathe. He hadn't expected this. And inside him, guilt nodded. "Of course." "I come in," he murmured, making room. Olivia entered, looking around tenderly. The house was different, more tidy with new details. A scarf folded on the sofa that wasn't his. A book he didn't remember buying. Small clues, but ones his attentive gaze didn't miss. As she placed the flowers in a vase, she commented, "I've missed you so much, Andreas. You've been distant. Is everything okay?" He forced a smile. "Yeah, just a little work and too many classes." She nodded, but her gaze remained on him. "Are you sure?" The silence that followed was more telling than any answer. Chapter: The Silent Lie. Andreas took a deep breath, trying to gather his thoughts, but the words seemed to stumble in his throat. Olivia had her back to him, fiddling with the flowers she'd brought. Their sweet scent wafted through the room, and for a moment the soft sound of water in the vase and the calm glow of the sunset created a false sense of peace. But inside him, the chaos was deafening. "Olivia," he began, his voice low, almost a whisper. She turned, smiling, and that smile disarmed him. It was the same one that had made him fall in love with her years ago, sincere, beautiful, full of life. "Yes, my love," she replied, moving closer and touching his face tenderly. "Is everything okay?" Andreas felt his chest tighten. He wanted to tell her. He wanted to tell her everything. He wanted to free himself from the lie. But seeing the sparkle in her eyes, the tenderness in her touch, the longing in her smile, everything crumbled inside him. He began but stopped. His heart was beating fast. "I missed you too." The sentence came out weakly, but it was enough to see her face light up. Olivia hugged him tightly, like someone finding a home. "I knew it was just a phase," she said, relief in her voice. "We've both been so busy, but I haven't stopped believing in us." Andreas wrapped his arms around her, but his eyes were lost in nothingness. He didn't feel the same warmth as before. That hug that had once comforted him now left him suffocated. She continued, speaking excitedly, unaware of his distance. I thought we could go out to dinner tomorrow to our favorite restaurant. Then maybe spend Sunday at my parents' house. They've been asking about you a lot. Andrea swallowed hard. Her parents, a constant reminder of the life he'd been trying to hold together, even when it no longer fit inside her. Sure, we can go, he said lamely. Olivia looked at him tenderly. Promise you'll try to relax? He smiled, running a hand through his hair. You've been looking so distant. He forced a smile. I promise. But what he wanted was to run. He wanted to text Tomas, tell him how much it hurt to have to pretend. Tell him that he only thought about him, that his kiss wouldn't leave his mind. But for now, he had to keep up the act. He had to be the perfect fiancé. Oblivious to the storm raging inside him, Olivia sat on the couch and rested her head on Andreas's shoulder. I'm so happy to be here, he murmured. I felt like we were losing each other, but now I feel like everything will go back to normal. Andreas didn't answer. He stared into space, his body motionless, his heart heavy. On the outside, the image was perfect, a peaceful couple together on a Saturday night. But inside, guilt throbbed like an open wound. He knew he couldn't keep up this charade for much longer. But he also knew that tonight, he wouldn't have the courage to destroy it. Not yet. Thank you for watching this far. Please, I know it's getting a lot of views, but no one is subscribing. Please subscribe to the channel to help me. It's very important. Share and like so you don't miss any episodes.